Well, we are here back again, and now we have the keynote speaker of this afternoon, that is Mark Squire. He's my friend. We have been working together in many things, but before I worked with him for many years, like 40 years before I met him, he was already doing a lot of activism, and he was starting his own company that is Good Earth Natural Foods in Fairfax, California, when he was very young. And for many years, he has been very important in the non-GMO advocacy movement in California and other states. And fairly, we should say that most of the bans on GMO growing in the coast of California, the North Coast, have to do with Mark Squire. He also is the spark of the non-GMO project. He was one of the founding members of the Prop 37, the people who come together to launch the Prop 37 in 2012, this historic proposition to label GMOs in California. So he has been involved in so many campaigns that we would take like half hour to tell you all his work. But the most interesting thing is that he's super low key. Many times we don't know what he's doing, but he's doing many things and we don't really notice it, you know. He's very, very humble. I am very proud of having working for many, many years with him. And he's also a farmer. He has started a firma farm in Northern California. He's growing a lot of pumpkins every year. And also he has some other things growing there. But the thing is that we have him here now. And I am really, really, really glad that he really accepted to be the keynote speaker for today. And Mark, thank you so much for being here, and it's your turn.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Miguel. It's always lovely to work with you. So when Miguel said, "Hey, do you want to speak?" You know, I immediately went into what I want to talk about, and my mind always goes to what I call the big picture. And, in that regard, I wanted to talk about holistic thinking. And, as I thought about it, it's really, holism to me is what binds us all together in all these different, obviously, in agriculture, holistic thinking has led us to organic agriculture. In medicine, holistic medicine is, worldwide, probably the chief medicine being used by indigenous peoples and some of us modern folks too. And holistic thinking is also about environmentalism. So it's about holism in space, including all creatures and all plant life within a system. So to me, holistic thinking is really the underpinning of so many of the things that we do as a culture and what binds us as a community as well, worldwide. And in fact, I would say that holism is so universal. It crops up in different religions around the world. It crops up around many, many thought forms and societal functions that we do. And I believe that the people that adhere to holistic ways of thinking were actually in the vast majority on the planet. And it's only just a few people that have a really narrow focus that have shaped many of our things that we are all dealing with every day, including our health systems and our agriculture. And so for that reason, I think it's always good to just sort of, slow down and talk about some of those like basic concepts. And I know I listened last night to Vandana Shiva's movie, and she very directly talks to that about how the science that is guiding us as cultures worldwide at this point is, she referred to it as one-eyed science. And I would say I would call it myopic, which basically means it's so narrowly focused that it misses much of the truth about the way natural systems function. And so it's so important that we all ground ourselves in that. And I would say not only are holistic systems spatial, but they're also over time. So I love the prior conversation about how we exist as soil more of the time than we exist as humans. And to me, that's lovely, because all holism does reflect both a time element as well as a spatial element. So, so where other places that holism is reflected is very much in the world of medicine. And, I think it's very exciting that we're having this conversation today, because the relationship between the environment and human health is, even though it goes way, way back in history, I always think of J.I. Rodale, who's really the guy who coined the word organic. He spoke of, he said soil health, plant health, and human health. And he very clearly linked them way back when he was writing his books. So obviously we're learning in more depth of how critical that is, and that relationship, between the microbiome, both in our human guts, and how integrally that is related to human health and our own health, but similarly the microbiome and the soils, and how that leads to plant health. And when we eat those plants that are really vibrant and healthy, then that leads to our human health. Or if we choose to eat animal foods, it leads to animal foods that are more healthy for human health too. So we're all absolutely connected in that way. And the underlying element is holism. So, I like to sort of, I think it's important if, we're gonna, I come from the place like, until all humans on the planet are eating organic food, then we haven't really accomplished the job yet. And, and that's also, I think, a reflection of holism, right? If anything, we've learned through these last couple of years of COVID is that we are absolutely all connected. So, in fact, I would say that, holistic thinking also takes you rapidly into social justice issues, because, the truth is about the planet is that we can't have one country on one part of the planet where the people are suffering and suppressed, and no human on the planet can actually be really healthy and whole, knowing that exists. So we need to be cognizant of, we're all one family. How do we get there? How do we get to that goal of sharing this knowledge with all peoples, and making that happen? So in terms of, I always like to go to, well, what's stopping us from getting there? Because I think it's really important to understand the blocks in the way. And as I reflect on it, I think one of the real impediments to humans, the holistic thinkers on the planet really taking over, is this concept of what I call silver bullets. And when I was a kid, 10 years old, I watched TV, and one of the shows on at that point was called The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger wore a mask, funny enough, and he shot these silver bullets. And even to a 10-year-old, it was pretty apparent that somehow these bullets were defying basic logic. The bullets would go around a rock and kill the bad guy, right, or whatever. But that concept of silver bullets is very real in our culture. I think we're always looking for that one thing that's going to save us from something. And in the realm of medicine, it's frequently, we're looking for a drug that will stop Alzheimer's disease, or we're even worse, perhaps looking for a gene that causes Alzheimer's disease so we can change it and fix that thing. So it's the looking for the one solution. Obviously, in agriculture, that looks like, oh, we'll just put nitrogen in the soil and the crops will be healthy, or we'll just use this one pesticide to eliminate the bugs that are in our way and everything's going to be fine. So I just say it because I think we all need to sort of be cognizant of how attractive that idea is to the human mind, and how in all of our dealings with natural systems, we need to be aware of that, what I think of as a pitfall. And obviously part of that is, when you look at, as Miguel spoke, I've been very involved in GMO issues, and obviously the GMO issue is one where that idea of looking at one little piece of a big system and trying to get a result out of it is, most apparent. And the problem with doing that is you always forget about the big system in that conversation. And I believe, as I know most of you do too, that it's only looking at the whole system where true healing really happens. And so we need to be very aware of that. And one of the other big impediments, I think, that has happened on the planet, and I think we all need to take responsibility, I think, for the fact that we have let these corporate entities kind of run the show, and they've frequently been run by this science model that Vandana talked about, of one-eyed science, where they're only looking at this one result. And unfortunately, in the corporate world, the one result usually looks like, how do we make the most amount of money out of this system? And very little caring about what that's doing to people on the other side of the planet, or what that's doing to the microbiome in the soils, or whatever. It's just so focused on making money. And I think I've become very aware, partly through my GMO work, of how prevalent that those corporate entities have gotten at this really sophisticated PR machine. And I think some of what the buttons that they like to push with us is that very silver bullet button. So we need to be very, very aware that we are being played based on that silver bullet model. And we need to be very ready to say, wait a minute, that's not the whole picture. We need a model that's healing to the whole picture, and not just one little element of it. And so, and only by doing that can we actually drive the systems worldwide to, a scientific model that's really exploring everything. And I'm, even though I think every year that goes by, I get more and more worried about the fate of us as a race on the planet. At the same time, I think there is a lot of really exciting work that's happening in terms of, people that understand holism and are trying to make it happen in bigger systems. again, I sort of come from the place like, until every kid on the planet is eating organic, I don't think we've done our job yet. And one of the tools that I have been very involved in over the years in trying to make that happen is obviously the organic agriculture. And I'm very quick to try and to defend organic as a system. And the reason I do that is, I first let me say, I think we all can agree that organic agriculture isn't, enough of what it should be at this point. I always like to tell this story early days when I was involved in organic agriculture in Northern California here, and organic certification was just beginning. I was on the board of directors of CCOF and California Certified Organic Farmers, and was just sort of in the right place at the right time to kind of hear this discussion that occurred. And these were farmers that absolutely understood all of what we're talking about today with soil health, and they were very, very grounded in the very best agriculture. But the conversation was coming up around certification, and okay, where, with any kind of a certified system, you need to draw some lines so that everybody knows what the playing field looks like to participate in that market. And these, hardcore organic farmers really debated, do we make a rule for organics that is so stringent and incorporates so many of our ideals that it becomes very, very difficult for conventional farmers to move into this system? Or do we relax the system enough so that it becomes easy for transition? And these hardcore farmers decided to open up organics so that conventional people could move into that system, fully knowing that it wasn't perfect, right? And to me, that also speaks to, the concept of holism. These farmers were basically saying, we're not content to have a little niche of organic agriculture here that's purist. We want to change agriculture. They were talking about in California at that point, and obviously that leads to worldwide change. But so, the word organic and the USDA in this country, certification of organic food, and the seal that creates in the marketplace that allows consumers to look for it and support it, the mechanism there has been, I believe, very, very important to furthering organics worldwide. And at no point did anybody that was involved in that movement feel like organic was stagnant and we shouldn't be constantly trying to push it to the next level, which is, so much of the exciting conversation today about, like, let's get really good at organic farming and really, do some more complete science to understand it. But the USDA organic seal, I think, has really opened up huge doors that are happening right now in Washington, D.C. in terms of getting support for a lot of these systems that we all know need to happen to really convert agriculture worldwide to organic systems. And, it's very, very, as you explore that world of politicians and what's driving things, you really do realize the key role that science plays in that. And, because of the, what I've heard called institutional capture, the PR machine of the Monsantos of the world the Bill Gates of the world, has been so insidious, actually integrating into our university systems. The USDA is intimately connected with the university systems, and we need to be very aware of the danger involved in that, and do our best to recapture the science that is happening on those levels. One of the things that one of the wake-up calls for me is when we were running a GMO ban campaign a few years ago in Sonoma County here in California. The Board of Supervisors here went to UC Davis to get a critique of our GMO ban, and the UC Davis produced this document that was, supposed to be a scientific document criticizing what we were doing. And the real takeaway from it was that there was not a speck of science in that document. It was like such a joke, and it's so obviously a PR machine. And this coming from, in California, actually nationally, UC Davis is recognized as one of the preeminent agricultural colleges in our nation. So the fact that they're spewing out this, really lies, they call them PR, I call it PR, but lies is another way to say the same thing. So it's quite shocking. So I think we need to all be very active. To me, another sort of ramification of holistic thinking is that you need to take responsibility for all segments of our culture, and that includes our government in Washington, D.C. So, I've been, actively going and talking to legislators whenever I get a chance. I absolutely encourage all of you to. They need to hear from us badly, because, they're a little bit in this place of all they're hearing from is the big moneyed interests who have a lot of money to throw at lobbyists and go in and talk to them. So, the more we are talking at a national level about policy, the faster can we move this whole thing. And I do believe also that, partly because the United States has caused so many of these problems worldwide, it is partly our job to try and fix it. So, Washington, D.C. is, has worldwide implications, and we should understand that and take that on. And my observation is that, a lot of times when you go to see DC and you talk to legislators, they kind of go, wow, I'm really glad to hear from real people, and get it. And things are moving there. So it is exciting. One of the things that has happened quite recently in the United States is that with our new Biden administration, new faces are coming into the administration. One of those faces, Vilsack is the Department of heads the Department of Agriculture, and he's a mixed bag for sure. But one of the people that has come into the administration who has yet to be confirmed by the Senate, but she will be right under Vilsack, and talking to him is our own California Jenny Moffett, who has been an undersecretary of agriculture in California. And she's an organic farmer, and she absolutely understands a lot of these issues. So we now have some people there who will be trying to push those policies. And so very exciting. Yeah, so I just that's pretty much what I had on my agenda to say today. I didn't realize I had an extra 10 minutes here, but maybe what I'll also just do is to give a little bit of shout out about some people that are doing some really important work right now in some of those arenas. And one of them is our own, I think many of you know Jeffrey Smith, who's the Institute of Responsible Technology. And if you guys haven't seen his, he has a 15-minute film clip going right now, which really does a great job of encapsulating what some of us have been calling GMO 2.0. And one of the revolutions happening right now in the corporate world is they've moved past a little bit what we think of as, I want to call them traditional GMOs, but the old style glyphosate resistant GMOs. And now we're seeing mostly the microbiome being genetically engineered in order to spit out different useful chemicals, right? And the first one that came to market was the Impossible Burger with their genetically modified blood. But right behind that are a whole other string of genetically engineered products. Dairy proteins are already in the market, or quote dairy proteins. They're really made by genetically engineered yeasts. And one of the scary things about them is that there is absolutely no government oversight. With traditional GMOs, the government was at least doing a little bit of checking to make sure that we weren't all going to kill ourselves. With these new CRISPR generated GMOs that are coming to market, there is absolutely zero government oversight. And I was shocked when I actually learned that. But anyway, watch Jeffrey Smith's 15-minute clip, and it will give you a little bit of a sense of the ramifications of some of this technology that is so scary for us all. And if I may also maybe give a shout out to the Center for Food Safety, who is just now come out with a lawsuit that would require the government to actually create some oversight for these new GMO technologies that are coming to market so quick. And we'll see how they do with that. But they are definitely champions that are, protecting our rights out there and keeping the holistic science in mind as they do that. Anyway, I did want to, sometimes I think our governmental organizations sort of get pulled into that, with the evil empire thing. And I do understand that, I think, like I said, with institutional capture, certainly the government is one of those institutions that has been captured by corporate entities that have short-sighted goals. The difference between government and corporations, I think, is that we can change the government, and we can control corporations through governmental activity, and we need to take that on. And not villainize the government in the process, because I don't see, when I look out at the world and I try and envision, like, well, how do we get from where we are to the world that we want to live in? If we don't make government part of that change, I don't see us ever getting there. And perhaps in an idealistic world we could, but I'm always a bit of a pragmatist, and I always think of, there are literally millions of kids that wake up every morning eating crap food, and they don't know better. And we owe it to them to change that world in using whatever means that we have at our disposal to get there. So that's, I think, really my message. Is a holistic one. Remember, we're all in the same boat together, and we all need to do our little part to fix that. Yeah. So Miguel, I don't know if you want to take it back here. Or I could just tell you about my farming here. I do farm in Petaluma now, and I call myself a new farmer. I actually found out early on. Oh, there's Miguel. Anyway, my biggest thing, I want to always qualify myself as saying I'm a new farmer, and what actually USDA qualifies as a new farmer is any farmer that's been farming less than 10 years. And I thought that was good because, the reality is I've been into it for 3 or 4 years. We're really struggling with the water here in Northern California. And one of my big lessons has been, just that so many of our systems that we have in place for regenerating agriculture need water. And without water, it becomes, it's not impossible, but it definitely slows things down. So, it's been lovely for me to be what I call myself as a weekend farmer and learning a lot. I'm a high school dropout, and I therefore feel like I give myself permission to do continual learning, and my farming has been a real learning thing for me. I mean, trying to apply some of these systems of no-till and et cetera. It's in a lot of ways, my meager attempts to try some of those tools has led me to have just super respect for farmers that are making those things work. And I think, especially if I can go to the no-till a little bit, I have a lot of friends that are, bigger farmers, like I think of, I was recently talking to Paul Mueller in Full Belly, who's a Northern California farmer, and he's been trying his best to figure out no-till on his 500 acres, and learning that's another learning thing. As like, how do you scale up these systems so that they can really feed the planet? And that's another thing that we need to do. And anyway, it's been a great learning thing for me, and appreciate everybody listening to my thoughts. And thank you, Miguel, for having me.
I have a question from our friend Tony, and he says, what can we do to organize? How we can start organizing? How did you do it,
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in rather than reinventing organizations to do what we know needs to be done, taking over the ones that currently exist and pushing them. So, in California, we have an organization called The Grange. They've gone through a little bit of turmoil lately, but I know people within The Grange who are pushing that conversation. In California, we have California Certified Organic Farmers, which I spoke about earlier, which is a nonprofit farmer-run organization, and we should all be involved in CCOF to push them toward more regenerative systems. I spoke to. I'm a proud member of the Organic Trade Association, which is in DC doing lobbying, bringing many of these conversations before senators, et cetera. I would say take a look around at what organizations exist and get involved in them and push them, because a lot of times it's easier than being on your own or starting a new organization. And there's a ton of them out there.
Yes, it's true. So, Mark, I'm gonna ask the very last question, and is from what you have experienced. You came to California in 1970s, I believe, the early 1970s, 71, 70,
69, I came
69.
here.
And you have seen the transformation of the society, from the hippie age to the 1980s, 1990s. Also, you saw all the blossoming of the marijuana triangle, with all these post-hippies who become growers and all this stuff. But also you have seen the transformation of the landscapes. Can you tell me how do you can see in 10 years, in 20 years, California, from what you have experienced in it? Maybe there have been an increase in fires, and also in the way people work close to forests, how they have deforesting, if they have reforesting. I don't know. I really wonder in which shape you can see California in 10 years or in 15 years, 20 years. That was the question that I was going to ask my friend Starhawk, and what we can do to go in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a big question, Miguel. Because I think I have come to see it as, what is the expression? We're on a knife edge. I do see increased consciousness about holistic systems happening, and yet, something comes along, like COVID, and as an example, and everybody immediately runs toward what I call silver bullets and forgets all that stuff. Or, to me, it's been disappointing to hear how little conversation. I mean, listening to Michelle Perro about, the connection to COVID and diet is, there's been no conversation like that in the regular media, and there should be. I do believe we're really on a knife edge. I could see a future California where all of culture collapsed because the oceans rose and all the city people, inundated the countryside, and everybody was hungry. I mean, that's a very real future, I think. And my optimistic side says, no, we're going to pull it out here. It's going to take some magic at this point to do that. But the stakes are high, and I don't know. I'm, that's part of me learning, growing food. And, I invite you, anybody in Northern California, and I'm sure other farmers would say the same thing. If society falls apart, you come here and we'll grow food together, and we may have to barricade the valley against the hordes or something, but anybody that is willing to pull up their sleeves and grow food. So I know that's, not it's not a very nice thing to think about, but at the same time, I do think we can pull it out. If we really all become the eco warriors that the times require of us, and whatever forum that we can make a difference in, whether it's teaching kids about good nutrition, or going to DC and talking to our elected representatives, or I'm always inspired by listening to AOC, who she basically said, no, I'm going to run for Congress and make a difference. And there's huge room for that to happen too. So the stakes are high, and I can't for the life of me forecast what it's going to look like, but I hope it's a good future.
Well, what I think, I'm gonna respond myself, and I feel like we need a lot of Mark Squires. Thousands or hundreds of thousands of Mark Squires to do what you have been doing the past 50 years in order to improve the food system, to create awareness, to educate people, you know. And I am very proud of having worked in the past 10 years with you, and I hope to continue collaborating, you know, and doing different campaigns. Thank you so much, Mark. It's so glad always to hear you, and I hope we can continue working together.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thanks so much.